So October is recognized nationally as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time definitely to bring special focus on domestic violence, the devastating impact on the people that are victims of domestic violence, as well as family members, our community, and just our nation as a whole. In Her Shoes is a revolutionary simulation that allows participants the opportunity to follow the experience of a real-life victim or survivor of domestic violence. They have the opportunity to be placed in groups where they are traveling throughout a victim's story. They're placed in a position to have to make decisions as well. We set up the dome, the Mvskoke Dome, with 17 stations representing shelter, a home, the hospital, a courtroom, something different this year. While the simulation itself includes a funeral home setting. One of our staff, Allison McCall, had reached out to a local funeral home, and they agreed to provide a demo casket, and so which I think was kind of alarming for people at first, surprising when coming into the dome. But then realizing the purpose for it being there, I think really increased kind of the reality of the fact that domestic violence is deadly. Can be very lethal, and there are high rates of homicide due to domestic violence. Domestic violence has a devastating impact on our people. We are busier now than our program has ever been. That is a positive thing because the promotion, the awareness, the outreach that we have done within the nation, I mean, it's more than we've ever done before. So of course that is leading to increased numbers of calls for assistance, because people are more aware that domestic violence is not okay. It threatens people's lives, their livelihood, their well-being. It impacts children. We have, with the high rates of domestic violence that are occurring, we have significant numbers of our children that are growing up in homes where they're being exposed to violence. And so we know through a great deal of research that exposure to violence dramatically impacts children. It affects their growth and development, their emotional and physical well-being. And so when we have children that are growing up in those situations, the impact of that trauma can be lifelong. So obviously, that's impacting our community and our nation as a whole. And then certainly victims are at great risk for a variety of injuries. Often when we're talking about domestic violence, we're recognizing the physical impacts as far as injuries. But it also has a very devastating, or can have a very devastating impact on someone's emotional well-being. And so we're seeing the impact of that trauma manifest in depression or other negative mental health conditions, as well as increasing the potential for suicide, as well as people in trying to cope with the trauma that they've experienced are more likely to use substances to in order to deal with their experiences. So I think that if we are really realistic and our eyes are open and we're looking at what's happening, that we can see the impact from domestic violence in almost every area within our nation in terms of services that we're providing, the impact on our healthcare system. We have people, coming to seek medical treatment for injuries that they've sustained due to domestic violence. So it really impacts every facet, unfortunately, of our nation. And when the well-being and safety of our women and children are at stake, obviously that's a tremendous threat, to the strength of our nation. So if anyone that's watching this is in an abusive relationship, or maybe they have experienced abuse in the past, whether it's domestic violence, sexual assault, we want to encourage them to contact our office at 918-732-7979. We have a variety of services and support that can help to address their safety issues and concerns. There's never any expectation from our staff for anyone to do anything that they don't want to. We're here to be a support, to not judge, to make sure they have information about their options, the available resources. We also really are trying to increase the availability of support for people that maybe have experienced a trauma in their past. Maybe they're not right now in an abusive relationship, or maybe they've experienced, sexual assault as a child or many years ago. So we're working to increase the number of ways that we can provide support, whether that's through support groups, so that, people have a place to be able to go and feel supported in their healing journey. So.